The Visionary and the Mountain. To truly understand the secret that lies behind the stoic face of Abraham Lincoln, we must first travel back in time, long before the first stick of dynamite ever kissed the granite of South Dakota. We must enter the mind of a man who was as colossal, as stubborn, and as complicated as the mountain he sought to conquer. John Gutzon de la Moth Borglum. Close your eyes and imagine the year 1924. Imagine a man standing on the edge of a rugged peak in the Black Hills, a place the Lakota people called the Six Grandfathers. To most, this was a wilderness of pine, quartz, and ancient stone. But to Gutzon Borglum, it was a blank canvas of epic proportions. Borglum was not merely a sculptor. He was a man obsessed with the concept of immortality. He had studied in Paris under the great Auguste Rodin, but while Rodin was content to capture the human soul in bronze and marble, Borglum wanted to capture the soul of an entire civilization in the very bones of the earth. Breathe in the sharp, cold air of the high altitude. Feel the wind whipping across the granite ridges. Borglum stood there, looking at the massive outcrop, and he realized that faces alone, even faces 60 feet tall, would not be enough. He feared the relentless march of time. He knew that in 10,000 years, wind, rain, and ice might soften the features of Washington or Jefferson. He worried that future civilizations might look upon these giant heads and wonder who they were or why they were carved. He didn't want a monument that whispered. He wanted a monument that spoke with the authority of the ages. This was the birth of the Hall of Records. Borglum's original vision was far more grand than what exists today. He imagined a massive chamber, an 80 by 100-foot room carved directly into the heart of the mountain. He wanted a grand stone staircase leading up from the valley floor, a majestic entrance protected by a massive bronze eagle with a wingspan of 38 feet. Above the door, he planned to carve the words, "The Shrine of Democracy." Think about the sheer audacity of this dream. Borglum was a man who believed that America was the greatest experiment in human history, and he felt it deserved a record that would outlast humanity itself. He once said, "A monument's dimensions should be determined by the importance to civilization of the events commemorated." By that logic, the Hall of Records had to be deep, indestructible, and eternal. Visualize Borglum in his studio, surrounded by clay models and blueprints. He was a man of fiery temper and boundless energy. He spent years lobbying Congress, fighting for every cent, and arguing with engineers who told him that his plan was impossible. But Borglum was a force of nature. He didn't just want to tell the story of the presidents. He wanted to tell the story of the discovery of the continent, the drafting of the Constitution, and the expansion to the Pacific. He wanted the hall to contain the original Declaration of Independence, etched into porcelain tablets so that they would never fade, never rot, and never be forgotten. As you drift deeper into this history, imagine the first day of construction, October 4th, 1927. The silence of the Black Hills was shattered by the roar of a gasoline-powered air compressor. The men who came to work for Borglum were not artists. They were miners, lumberjacks, and farmers who had lost everything in the early days of the Great Depression. They were men who knew how to handle a jackhammer and a stick of dynamite. Borglum taught them to be sculptors with explosives. Breathe in the smell of wood smoke and black powder. Imagine the sound of the honeycomb drills, long steel bits that chewed into the granite, creating a series of holes like a beehive. The workers would then carefully place small charges of dynamite to blast away the rock, layer by layer, inch by inch. It was a terrifying vertical ballet. The men sat in swing seats, nothing more than a wooden board suspended by a quarter-inch steel cable hundreds of feet above the canyon floor. They would push off the rock with their feet, swinging out into the void, then swinging back in to plant their drills. In those early years, the Hall of Records was the primary focus of Borglum's planning. He spent nights sitting by a campfire, looking up at the stars and describing the interior of the hall to his son, Lincoln Borglum. He described a room lined with high-quality granite, where the walls would be covered in bronze and gold. He imagined the great documents of American history stored in glass cases, protected by a climate that the mountain itself provided. But as the faces began to take shape, Washington first, then Jefferson, the political pressure began to mount. Congress was skeptical of the hall. They saw it as an expensive vanity project. They wanted the faces finished. They didn't care about a hidden room that no tourist would ever see. But Borglum refused to let the dream die. He began secretly diverting funds and labor to start the tunnel behind Lincoln's head. He knew that once he started the hole, the government would have to finish it. Think about the secrecy of those first blasts into the rock behind Lincoln. In July 1938, without official permission, Borglum's crews began the tunnel. They were cutting into the most stable part of the mountain. The granite there was ancient, nearly 2 billion years old. It was hard, stubborn, and unforgiving. Every foot of progress was a battle won against the earth itself. As you fall deeper into relaxation, imagine the dust. A fine white granite powder covered everything. It filled the lungs of the workers and turned their hair white, making them look like the ghosts of the presidents they were carving. In the middle of the night, the mountain would groan as the heat of the day left the stone. It was as if the mountain was protesting this intrusion into its heart. But Borglum didn't care. He was carving his way into history. He envisioned a grand glass door that would allow the morning sun to reach deep into the hall, illuminating the records of the nation. He wanted the hall to be a place of pilgrimage, but also a place of total security. It was to be the ultimate time capsule. He once wrote that he wanted the hall to remain intact until the year 10,000 AD. He was thinking on a geological scale. He was thinking about a world where the English language might be dead, but the stone would still remain. This is the foundation of our story. It is the story of a man who tried to cheat death by carving his ideas into a mountain. The Hall of Records was not just a room. It was a prayer for the future. It was Borglum's way of ensuring that America would never be a forgotten empire like Rome or Egypt. Now, imagine the faces of the 4 presidents at night, bathed in the soft glow of the moon. Behind them, hidden in the shadows, is that unfinished tunnel. It is a dark, silent void waiting for its purpose to be fulfilled. The dream of the hall was a dream of total knowledge and total permanence. As you prepare for sleep, feel the weight of that mountain. It is solid. It is enduring. It is holding the secrets of a visionary who refused to believe that anything, even a nation, could ever truly disappear.
Engineering the abyss. To understand the secret room hidden behind the granite brow of Abraham Lincoln, one must first understand the terrifying vertical world of the men who built it. We move now from the visionary dreams of Gutzon Borglum into the gritty, dangerous reality of the 1930s, a world of steel, cordite, and iron nerves. The Hall of Records was not merely an architectural concept, it was a feat of engineering that defied the laws of gravity and the stubbornness of ancient rock. As we explore the engineering of the abyss, imagine yourself suspended 500 feet above the canyon floor, where the only thing between you and the void is a thin steel cable and the steady hands of your fellow workers. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the bracing, thin air of the Black Hills at 5,000 feet. The summit of Mount Rushmore is a jagged landscape of peaks and precipices. In 1938, when the work on the Hall of Records began in earnest, the mountain was a cacophony of industrial noise. Visualize the winch house at the very top of the mountain. Inside, massive drums of steel cable groaned as they lowered men over the edge. These men sat in bosun's chairs, simple wooden planks attached to a leather harness. Imagine the sensation of stepping off a solid granite ledge into nothingness, swinging out over the trees of South Dakota with the wind whistling through the cables like a haunting flute. Breathe into that space, the vast, open sky. The men who carved the tunnel were a special breed. Many were former miners from the nearby lead and deadwood gold mines, men who were comfortable in the dark and the cold. But here, the work was different. They were not digging for gold, they were carving a legacy. To begin the Hall of Records, they had to identify a section of the mountain that was structurally sound. They chose the area directly behind the north wall of the canyon, shielded by the massive head of Lincoln. They needed rock that was free of schist, the soft, flaky layers of stone that could cause a cave-in. They found it in a deep, ancient vein of Harney Peak granite, a stone so hard it would dull a steel drill bit in less than 15 minutes. Think about the blacksmith shop located on the side of the mountain. This was the heartbeat of the project. Every day, hundreds of drill bits were sent down to the forge to be sharpened and tempered. Imagine the sound of the hammers, clink, 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 as the blacksmiths worked in the heat of the fire, preparing the tools for the battle against the stone. Without the blacksmiths, the mountain would have won. Every inch of the Hall of Records represents thousands of hammer blows and hundreds of sharpened bits. It was a cycle of heat and ice. Now, visualize the honeycomb technique, the secret to Borglum's precision. To create the tunnel, the drillers would hang from their cables and drill a series of deep holes just inches apart into the face of the rock. It looked like a giant beehive. Once the holes were deep enough, they would use a wedging tool to break away the thin walls of stone between the holes. This allowed them to remove large chunks of granite without using massive amounts of dynamite that might crack the precious faces of the presidents nearby. Breathe in the scent of the rock dust. It was everywhere. They called it the white ghost. In the late 1930s, there were no high-tech respirators. The men wore simple cloths over their mouths, their faces covered in a fine white powder that made them look like statues themselves. As you drift deeper into relaxation, imagine the sound of the jackhammers, a rhythmic, bone-shaking vibration that echoed through the entire canyon. To work the jackhammer, a man had to lean his entire body against the vibrating steel, his muscles tensing against the power of the compressed air. It was exhausting, soul-crushing work, but there was a pride in it. They were the mountain carvers. When explosives were necessary, the work became a high-stakes game of chess. The powder monkeys were the masters of the dynamite. They would wait until the end of the day when the other workers had been pulled back up to the summit. In the twilight, the powder monkeys would descend, carefully placing small microcharges into the honeycomb holes. Imagine the silence that fell over the mountain just before the blast. The sun would be dipping below the horizon, turning the granite into a deep, bruised purple. Then, boom! A dull thud would vibrate through the soles of your feet. A cloud of dust and debris would erupt from the tunnel mouth, falling like gray snow into the valley below. As the smoke cleared, the tunnel grew deeper. Borglum was a perfectionist. He would often climb down into the jagged hole with a flashlight and a ruler, checking the angles. He wanted the entrance to be perfectly square, the walls perfectly plumb.
He ordered the workers to use bumping tools, small air-powered hammers, to smooth the rough interior walls until they felt like the skin of an elephant. Think about the physical toll. By the time the tunnel reached 70 feet into the mountain, the air inside was thick and stagnant. The heat from the drills and the sweat of the men created a humid, oppressive atmosphere. Yet, as they pushed further in, the temperature began to stabilize. Deep inside the mountain, it is always 55 degrees. It is a place beyond the reach of the summer sun or the winter blizzards. Imagine walking into that tunnel after a long day in the scorching South Dakota sun. The sudden, deep chill of the earth is like a cold hand on your forehead. It's a grounding, ancient sensation. Now, visualize the tunnel as it stood in 1939. It was a dark, rectangular void cut into the cliffside. High above the ground, it looked like a doorway for a god. There were no stairs yet, only the swinging cables. The floor of the tunnel was littered with granite shards, each one a fragment of a billion-year-old history. The walls were beginning to take the shape of the grand chamber Borglum envisioned. He wanted the ceiling to be arched like a cathedral, a design that would naturally distribute the weight of the thousands of tons of rock pressing down from above. As you drift closer to sleep, think about the nights on the mountain. When the workers went home to the bunkhouse and the machines were turned off, the Hall of Records was left to the stars. Imagine the moon rising over the Black Hills, its silver light shining directly into the mouth of the tunnel. The granite walls would catch the light, the mica and quartz crystals in the stone sparkling like a galaxy of tiny stars. It was a place of absolute, heavy silence. The only sound was the occasional crack of the mountain cooling down, a sound like a distant gunshot as the rock contracted in the night air. You are lying in that silence now. The roar of the jackhammers has faded into the past. The dust has settled. The cables are still. You are safe in the heart of the mountain, protected by 70 feet of solid granite. There is no wind here. There is no noise. There is only the steady, unchanging pulse of the earth. You are as secure as the titanium vault that would eventually find its home here. Breathe in the cool, stable air of the tunnel. Breathe out the restlessness of the day. You are descending into a sleep that is as deep and as enduring as the Black Hills themselves. The engineering is complete. The heavy lifting is done. The mountain is holding you.
The Forbidden Path and the Lost Blueprints. We stand now at a crossroads in time, in the year 1941. The thunder of dynamite has ceased, replaced by a silence so heavy it feels physical. The Hall of Records stands as a jagged 70-foot deep scar in the granite, a hollow promise tucked behind the head of Lincoln. In this chapter, we explore the Forbidden Path and the Lost Blueprints, the story of a grand design that was suddenly severed from reality, leaving behind a mystery of what might have been. To understand the hall as it is today, we must look at the ghost of what it was meant to be, a palace of history that would have rivaled the tombs of the pharaohs. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the stillness of a world on the brink of change. In early 1941, Gutzon Borglum, the master sculptor, was 73 years old. His body was failing, but his mind was still racing through the granite corridors of his imagination. He carried with him a set of blueprints, thick, linen-backed rolls of paper smelling of ink and ambition. Imagine unrolling these blueprints on a wooden table in his studio. They don't show a jagged tunnel, they show a masterpiece of neoclassical architecture carved into the wilderness. These are the lost blueprints, the architectural DNA of a dream that the mountain refused to fully swallow. Breathe into the vision of the Great Staircase. According to the plans, you wouldn't be swinging on a cable to reach the hall.
Borglum envisioned a massive 800-foot-long stone staircase winding its way up the side of the mountain from the valley floor. Visualize these steps, wide enough for 10 men to walk abreast, carved directly into the living rock. The staircase was designed to be a physical journey of ascension, a path that would make every visitor feel the weight and the height of the American story. Imagine the sound of thousands of feet echoing against the granite, a rhythmic human heartbeat climbing toward the sky. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the entrance of the eagle. The blueprints describe a doorway that was intended to be the most magnificent portal in the Western Hemisphere. It was to be 20 feet high and framed by a massive bronze eagle with a 38-foot wingspan. Imagine the sun hitting that bronze at midday, casting a golden shadow across the canyon. The eagle was not just a decoration, it was a guardian. Its eyes were to be polished stone, looking out over the Black Hills, protecting the records of the nation from the elements and from time itself. When you look at the mountain today, you see only the faces, but in the lost version, that eagle would have been the first thing to catch your eye. Now follow the blueprints inside, past the bronze doors. Borglum didn't want a dark cave, he wanted a cathedral of democracy. The plans show a vast hall, 80 feet high, with a vaulted ceiling supported by massive granite columns. Imagine the walls lined with high-quality polished stone, reflecting the light of grand chandeliers. Along these walls, Borglum planned to place the Great Tablets, huge panels of white porcelain, where the history of the United States would be laid out like the pages of a giant, indestructible book. Breathe in the scent of the blueprints, the old paper, the sharp tang of the draftsman's ink. As you trace the lines of the drawings in your mind, you see the chambers of the founders. Branching off from the main hall were smaller rooms dedicated to specific eras of history. There was to be a room for the explorers, a room for the inventors, and a room for the artists. It was to be a complete map of the American mind. Borglum even designed an intricate drainage system, a network of hidden channels behind the walls to ensure that not a single drop of mountain moisture would ever touch the precious records. It was a marvel of pre-war engineering, a sanctuary designed to last 10,000 years without a single human hand to maintain it. But then, in March 1941, the heart of the project stopped. Borglum died following surgery in Chicago. His son, Lincoln Borglum, took over the work, but the world was changing. World War II was consuming the globe's resources. The U.S. government, which had always been skeptical of the hall's cost, saw an opportunity to close the ledger. They declared the monument complete as it stood. The grand staircase was never started. The bronze eagle was never cast. The porcelain tablets remained unetched. The Hall of Records was abandoned, its entrance left as a rough, rectangular hole in the cliffside, inaccessible and forbidden. Think about the forbidden path that exists today. Because there's no staircase, the only way to reach the hall is by a treacherous climb that requires professional climbing gear and federal permits. It is a path of jagged ledges and sheer drops, guarded by the National Park Service and the natural defenses of the mountain. For 50 years, the hall was a place where only the wind and the mountain goats traveled. Imagine the silence inside that unfinished room during those decades. The blueprints were filed away in government archives, gathering dust, while the room itself became a ghost, a memory of a future that never arrived. Visualize the ghost hall in the moonlight. Without the chandeliers and the polished stone, the room is raw and primal. The jackhammer marks are still visible on the walls, like the fingerprints of the men who walked away in 1941. In the dark, this space feels like a temple that was abandoned mid-ceremony. There is a profound sense of waiting in the air. The mountain is holding its breath, still cradling the vacuum where the cathedral of democracy was supposed to be. As you drift closer to sleep,
Consider why this path remains forbidden. It isn't just about safety. It is about the sanctity of an unfinished thought. The Hall of Records is a reminder that even our greatest monuments are subject to the whims of history. It is a place of almost. But in that almost, there is a strange, quiet peace. You don't need to climb the 800 steps. You don't need to pass through the bronze doors. In your mind, you can simply float into that cool, dark space and rest. Breathe in the heavy, grounding scent of the granite. Breathe out the need for completion. Life is often made of unfinished halls and lost blueprints, and that is okay. The mountain is still beautiful, the faces are still there, and the secret room, even in its raw state, is a masterpiece of potential. You are safe in the unfinished places. You are secure in the silence. Imagine the blueprints being rolled up and placed in a dark wooden tube. The ink is dry. The plan is set, even if it was never built. You are resting now in the heart of the mountain where the plans of men fade away and the endurance of the stone begins. There is no more blasting. There is no more climbing. There is only the steady, rhythmic breath of the mountain. Sleep now as the image of the bronze eagle and the grand stone stairs dissolves into the deep, velvet black of the South Dakota night. In the next part, we will explore the 1998 crate and the porcelain message, the moment when a small part of Borglum's dream was finally, secretly realized. But for now, there is only the quiet. There is only the dark. There is only sleep.
The 1998 crate and the porcelain message. For over half a century, the jagged hole behind Abraham Lincoln's head remained a silent, empty shell, a monument to a dream that had been cut short by death and war. But history has a way of returning to its unfinished business. We move now to a crisp morning in 1998, a year when the digital age was beginning to accelerate. Yet a small group of people looked back toward the ancient granite of the Black Hills to fulfill a 57-year-old promise. In this chapter, we explore the 1998 crate and the porcelain message, the moment when a secret mission finally transformed a hollow tunnel into a true Hall of Records. Take a slow, deep breath and visualize the mountain as it appeared on that quiet morning in late spring. The world below was busy with the turn of the millennium, but high up on the granite scaffolding, the air was still. There were no crowds, no grand fanfares, and no television cameras. Instead, there was a small gathering of the Borglum family, park officials, and historians. They were there to carry a heavy burden, not just in weight, but in historical significance. Imagine a small, meticulously crafted crate made of teak wood, a wood known for its ability to withstand the centuries without rotting. Inside that teak wood shell sat a gleaming, futuristic box made of titanium. Breathe in the scent of the teak wood, a rich, earthy, and oily aroma that speaks of endurance. Titanium is one of the strongest, most corrosion-resistant metals on Earth. It was chosen because it does not yield to time. Imagine the texture of that metal, cool, smooth, and silver gray. If Borglum's mountain was the fortress, this titanium box was the inner sanctum. It was designed to be the black box of the American experiment, a vessel that could survive even if the mountain itself eventually crumbled. Inside this vault were 16 panels of porcelain enamel, each one a masterpiece of durability. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the information etched onto those panels. This was not a collection of paper documents that would yellow and turn to dust. These were high-fire porcelain tablets where the ink was fused into the material at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees. On these panels, the story of the United States was written in a way that no fire, no flood, and no passage of time could erase. Imagine the panels being laid out, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the biographies of the 4 presidents carved into the mountain's face. But there was more. One panel told the story of the mountain itself, why it was carved, how the workers lived, and the vision of Gutzon Borglum. It was a message to a future that we cannot even imagine. Think about a civilization 10,000 years from now. They might not speak our language, they might not know our names, but when they find this titanium vault, they will find a Rosetta Stone for the 20th century. Breathe out and feel the weight of that responsibility, the attempt to explain us to them, thousands of years across the abyss of time. Now, visualize the physical act of the installation. In the center of the rough-hewn floor of the hidden tunnel, a small rectangular pit had been cut into the solid granite. Imagine the sound of the chains rattling as the teak wood crate containing the titanium vault was slowly lowered into the earth of the mountain. It was a slow, reverent movement. When the crate touched the bottom of the pit, there was a profound sense of closure. The Hall of Records was no longer a hollow cave. It finally had a heart. It was now a living time capsule, a vault of memory buried within a vault of stone. Breathe in the cool subterranean air of the tunnel. As you watch the ceremony in your mind, see the final piece of the puzzle, the granite capstone. This was a massive slab of the same Black Hills granite, polished and heavy. Imagine the workers sliding that capstone over the pit. Scrape, thud. The sound echoed through the chamber, a final punctuation mark on a sentence started in 1927. On the capstone, an inscription was carved, explaining what lay beneath. Once the capstone was set, the floor became level again, and the secret was sealed. Think about the silence that followed. The small group of people packed up their tools and descended the mountain, leaving the vault behind. For the last several decades, that titanium box has sat in total darkness, a few feet beneath the floor where the wind whistles through the jagged entrance. It does not need electricity. It does not need maintenance. It simply is. It is a silent witness. It knows the words of the Constitution by heart, holding them in the dark while the seasons change and the centuries begin to stack like falling leaves. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the security of that vault. You are like that titanium box now. You are contained in a space of perfect safety. No worries from the outside world can penetrate the granite walls of this mountain. No noise from the future or the past can disturb the deep, cool stillness of the chamber. You are grounded in the very foundation of the earth. The porcelain tablets of your own mind, your memories, your identity, your peace, are etched in a way that cannot be disturbed. Visualize the mountain from a distance now. The faces of the presidents are illuminated by a silver moon. They look out over the vast American plains, eternal and steady. But you know the secret. You know that behind those eyes, deep in the rock, there is a heart made of titanium and porcelain. It is a place where history is safe. It is a place where you are safe.
The 1.6 billion year foundation. We have walked through the dreams of sculptors, the dangerous scaffolding of workers, and the secret installation of titanium vaults. But to truly understand why the Hall of Records exists where it does, we must peel back the thin skin of human history and descend into the staggering depths of deep time. In this chapter, we explore the 1.6 billion year foundation, the ancient geological soul of the Black Hills. Before there was a United States, before there were humans, and even before there were dinosaurs, there was the granite. Tonight, we ground ourselves in the absolute permanence of the stone that holds the secrets of the nation. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the immense gravity of the mountain beneath you.
When you stand in the secret chamber behind Lincoln's head, you are not just standing in a room, you are standing inside a piece of the Earth's original crust. The granite of Mount Rushmore, known to geologists as the Harney Peak granite, began its journey roughly 1.6 billion years ago. Visualize a world that is unrecognizable, a planet of fire and shifting plates, where life was nothing more than microscopic organisms in a primordial sea. Deep beneath the surface of the Earth, a massive plume of molten magma was struggling to rise. It didn't erupt as a volcano. Instead, it remained trapped miles underground, cooling with agonizing slowness over millions of years. Breathe in the cool, mineral scent of the deep Earth. As that magma cooled, it began to crystallize, forming the dense, interlocking structure that makes granite one of the hardest substances in nature. Imagine the pressure of miles of overhead rock squeezing that cooling liquid into solid stone. This slow cooling is what gave the mountain its texture. If you were to run your hand along the wall of the Hall of Records, you would feel the individual crystals. There is the white and pink feldspar, the gray translucent quartz, and the sparkling flakes of muscovite mica. These minerals are the ingredients of immortality. They are what Gutzon Borglum saw when he first struck the mountain, a material that refused to yield to anything but dynamite and determination. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the Laramide orogeny, the great mountain-building event that occurred about 70 million years ago. Imagine the terrifying power of the Earth's tectonic plates clashing together, forcing that ancient 1.6 billion-year-old granite plug upward through the surrounding layers of limestone and shale. The granite rose like a giant's shoulder, shedding the younger rock like water. The Black Hills were born. When you look at the faces of the presidents today, you are looking at the basement rock of the continent. Everything else has been eroded away by wind and rain over eons, but the granite remains. It is the core. It is the foundation. Now, consider Borglum's choice. Why this mountain? Why this stone? Borglum was not just an artist, he was a student of geology. He knew that the Harney Peak granite had an incredibly slow rate of erosion. He calculated that the granite wears away at a rate of only 1 inch every 10,000 years. Think about that number. 1 inch, 10,000 years. This means that in the year 12,000 AD, the faces of the presidents will look almost exactly as they do tonight. The Hall of Records was placed here because Borglum knew it was the most secure safe on the planet. The mountain is a clock that barely moves. It is a fortress that does not require a single guard. Breathe out and let your body feel the heaviness of that stone. Granite is incredibly dense, weighing about 165 pounds per cubic foot. The mountain is an unfathomable weight, pressing down into the earth, providing a level of stability that no man-made building could ever achieve. Inside the Hall of Records, you are shielded by millions of tons of this ancient material. The vibrations of the modern world, the cars, the planes, the digital noise, all vanish. The granite absorbs it all, leaving only a profound rhythmic silence. It is the silence of the Precambrian era, a silence that has existed for over 1 billion years. Visualize the mountain from a distance. The Lakota people called this place Paha Sapa, and they believed it was the heart of everything that is. Geologically, they were right. The Black Hills are an island of ancient rock surrounded by a sea of younger prairie. In the middle of the night, the mountain seems to hum with a low-frequency energy, the resonant frequency of the earth itself. As you lie in your bed, imagine that you are tuned in to that frequency. You are no longer floating in the chaos of a busy day. You are anchored to a 1.6 billion year old foundation. You are as steady as the stone. Think about the mica crystals within the walls of the secret tunnel. Even in the darkness, they possess a hidden luster. If you were to bring a single candle into the Hall of Records, the walls would come alive, shimmering with a billion tiny mirrors. Each crystal is a record of a specific moment in the Earth's cooling process, a tiny time capsule of the planet's birth. This is why the Hall of Records feels so sacred. It is a human story, our documents, our presidents, our laws, nested inside a geological story that is far grander. It is a reminder that while our civilizations rise and fall like the seasons, the Earth endures. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the mountain in the winter. The granite is impervious to the frost. The ice may fill the cracks, but the heart of the stone remains untouched. The Hall of Records is dry and stable, protected by the very density of the rock. You are like the hall now. You are tucked away in a place where the weather of life cannot reach you. The storms of emotion, the winds of worry, and the heat of stress all stop at the granite surface. Inside, in the core of your being, there is only the cool, unchanging permanence of the stone. Breathe in the ancient strength of the Harney Peak granite. Breathe out any sense of fragility. You are not made of glass. You are not made of paper. Tonight, you are made of the same stuff as the mountain. Your rest is built on a foundation that has lasted for 1.6 billion years. It is a foundation that cannot be shaken. It is a foundation that knows how to wait. Visualize the entire mountain now as a giant protective shell. The faces of Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln are the outer guardians, but the granite itself is the true protector. It is the silent witness of the centuries. It has seen the rise of the oceans and the retreat of the glaciers, and tonight it sees you. It offers you its weight, its silence, and its absolute endurance.
The secret staircase of the mind. We return now to the precipice, to the jagged edge where human ambition meets the vertical reality of the Black Hills. In our previous chapters, we spoke of the lost blueprints, but tonight we dive into the most evocative part of those missing designs, the grand stone staircase. This was not intended to be a mere utility for the staff, but a psychological journey, a secret staircase of the mind that would transform a visitor from a mere tourist into a pilgrim of history. Though the stairs were never carved into the rock, their phantom presence still haunts the mountain. Tonight, we climb the staircase that exists only in the architecture of our imagination. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the immense verticality of the mountain. Imagine standing at the very base of the canyon looking up. The faces of the presidents are 600 feet above you, their stone eyes staring into the horizon. In Borglum's vision, this is where your journey would begin. You would step onto the first of 800 granite steps. Visualize these steps, massive, gray, and wide enough for a small army to march upward. They were designed to be carved directly into the living flank of the mountain, winding like a serpent around the massive stone buttresses that support the head of Washington. Breathe in the scent of the pine forest at the mountain's base. As you begin the imaginary ascent, feel the weight of your own body. Each step was meant to be a deliberate act. Borglum didn't want an elevator. He didn't want a shortcut. He believed that the value of the Hall of Records was earned through the physical effort of the climb. As you ascend higher in your mind, the sounds of the valley, the rustle of the trees, the chatter of the crowds begin to fade. The higher you go, the thinner and purer the air becomes. You are leaving the mundane world behind and entering the realm of the eternal. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the landings of reflection. Every 100 steps, Borglum planned a wide stone terrace where a traveler could stop and breathe. Imagine standing on one of these landings, halfway up the mountain. To your left is the sheer vertical wall of 1.6 billion-year-old granite. To your right is a drop into the vast green sea of the Black Hills. From here, you can see the curvature of the earth. The wind here is constant, a low-frequency hum that vibrates through the soles of your feet. This staircase was designed to make you feel small, not to diminish you, but to show you the scale of the history you were about to encounter. Now, visualize the hidden path that exists today in place of those stairs. While the grand staircase was never built, there is a series of narrow steel maintenance ladders and wooden catwalks that the National Park Service uses to inspect the mountain. They're tucked away in the shadows of the rock, invisible from the ground. Imagine climbing these thin, vibrating rungs in the middle of the night. It is a world of shadows and steel. This is the forbidden route to the Hall of Records. Every step is a test of nerves. The mountain feels alive in the dark. The granite is cold to the touch, and the stars above seem close enough to reach out and grab. Breathe out and let go of the effort. In your mind, you are no longer climbing. You are floating upward, following the path of the phantom stairs. Borglum envisioned the final approach to the Hall of Records as a grand processional way. The stairs would lead to a massive ledge, a stone platform carved behind the head of Lincoln. Imagine standing on this ledge at sunset. The entire valley is bathed in gold, and you are standing on the very threshold of the mountain's heart. Before you is the rectangular opening of the tunnel, the mouth of the vault. This staircase was meant to prepare your mind for the silence of the records. Borglum knew that you couldn't just walk off a busy street and understand the weight of the Constitution. You needed the climb. You needed the wind. You needed the height. He called this the architecture of preparation. Even though the stairs aren't there, the mountain still demands that preparation. To truly see the Hall of Records, one must be willing to leave the ground behind. You are doing that now. You are rising above the worries of the day, leaving the heavy gravity of your problems at the base of the mountain. Think about the workers who actually had to climb the mountain every day without the stairs. They used heavy hemp ropes and wooden skip cars. Imagine the courage it took to ascend the mountain in the freezing rain of a South Dakota autumn, their hands numbed by the cold granite. Their staircase was one of pure willpower. When you think of the Hall of Records, remember that every inch of it was reached by human sweat and muscle. The staircase may be a ghost, but the effort that would have built it is etched into every jackhammer mark in the tunnel. As you drift closer to sleep, visualize the top of the phantom staircase. The steps are bathed in the silver light of a full moon. They lead directly into the dark, inviting portal of the hall. There is no door here tonight, only the open throat of the mountain. You have reached the summit of your journey. The climb is over. The height has been achieved. You are standing on the high ledge of your own consciousness, looking out over the landscape of your life from a place of absolute safety. Breathe in the thin, cold air of the heights. Breathe out and feel yourself settle into the granite ledge. You are high above the world, protected by the distance and the stone. The secret staircase has brought you to a place where the noise of the world cannot reach. There are no phones ringing here. There are no clocks ticking. There is only the mountain and the stars. Imagine the phantom steps dissolving into the mist, leaving you securely tucked inside the mouth of the tunnel. You are resting in the sanctuary of the summit. The mountain is holding you up, and the sky is your ceiling. You have climbed high enough. Now you can simply let go and fall into the deep black velvet of sleep. The staircase of the mind is quiet now. The rungs are still. The journey is at rest. You have reached the hall, and the hall is peace.
The Titanium Guardian. We have ascended the phantom stairs and stood upon the threshold of the mountain's heart. Now we move past the rough-hewn entrance and focus our gaze upon the floor of the tunnel, where the true treasure lies buried. In this chapter, we explore the Titanium Guardian, the high-tech vessel that finally gave the Hall of Records its soul in 1998. To understand the Guardian, we must look beyond the stone and into the world of advanced metallurgy and the desperate human desire to speak to a future we will never see. This is the story of a box built to outlast empires, sitting in the absolute dark, waiting for a hand that has not yet been born. Take a slow, deep breath and visualize the interior of the tunnel at midnight. It is a space of perfect velvet blackness. But imagine for a moment that you have a light that can see through stone. Beneath the granite floor, encased in a teakwood crate, sits the titanium vault. Titanium, a metal named after the Titans of Greek mythology, the deities of incredible strength who preceded the gods. Breathe in the cool metallic scent of this thought. Titanium is a supermaterial. It is as strong as steel, but 45% lighter, and more importantly, it is almost entirely immune to the ravages of corrosion. While iron rusts and copper turns green, titanium remains unchanged, a silver-gray ghost that refuses to decay. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about why this metal was chosen for the mountain. The Hall of Records is a place of moisture. Water seeps through the microfractures of the granite, and the air is filled with the minerals of the earth. Any ordinary metal would eventually crumble under the slow, persistent attack of time. But the Titanium Guardian is different. It forms a microscopic passive oxide layer on its surface the moment it is exposed to oxygen, a self-healing skin that protects the metal underneath. It is a guardian that heals itself. Imagine that skin, a thin, impenetrable shield that has been sitting in the dark for nearly 30 years without a single blemish. Now, visualize the sealing of the message. Inside this titanium shell, the 16 porcelain panels are not just stacked, they are protected by an environment of inert argon gas. Imagine the scientists in 1998 working in a sterile lab, purging the oxygen from the vault and replacing it with argon. Argon is a noble gas. It does not react, it does not burn, and it does not allow for any chemical change. By sealing the records in argon, we have essentially frozen them in time. The ink on the porcelain, the biographies of the presidents, and the text of the Bill of Rights are suspended in a bubble of eternal stasis. Breathe out and feel that sense of stasis in your own body. Like the argon inside the vault, let your thoughts become noble and unreactive. The worries of the day cannot oxidize your peace. You are sealed in a chamber of total calm. The titanium of your resolve is strong, and the shield around your mind is perfect. Inside the vault of your sleep, nothing can change, nothing can decay, and nothing can disturb the records of your day. Think about the teakwood crate that surrounds the titanium. Teak is a legendary wood harvested from the tropical forests of Southeast Asia. It is saturated with natural oils and silica, making it naturally resistant to rot, fungi, and even the boring of insects. In the 1998 installation, the teak was used as a buffer, a soft, organic cradle for the hard metal vault.
It is a beautiful marriage of the natural world and high technology. Imagine the scent of that oily wood buried deep in the granite. It adds a layer of ancient biological protection to the scientific perfection of the titanium. Together, they form a multi-layered defense against the march of the millennia. Now, visualize the granite capstone that sits atop the vault. It is a massive slab weighing several hundred pounds, flush with the tunnel floor. On it, an inscription is carved in deep, crisp letters. It tells the finder that the records of a great civilization lie beneath. But imagine the weight of that stone. It is the final seal. Once it was lowered into place, the titanium guardian was left to its lonely vigil. It does not need a pulse, it does not need a light. Its only job is to exist. It is a passive guardian, defending the American story simply by refusing to disappear. As you drift closer to sleep, consider the deep-time mission of this box. The engineers who designed the vault were not thinking about the next decade or even the next century. They were thinking about the year 10,000 AD. They were thinking about a time when the United States might be a myth, as distant and mysterious as Atlantis is to us. They were thinking about a future where our languages have evolved beyond recognition. The titanium guardian is a bridge. It is a hand reached out across 10 millennia, holding a porcelain letter that says, "This is who we were. This is what we believed. Do not forget us." Breathe in the silence of that 10,000-year plan. There is something profoundly peaceful about a project that long. It makes the small stresses of a single day seem like tiny dust motes in a vast gallery. The titanium guardian is not worried about tomorrow's headlines. It is not worried about the ticking of the clock. It is grounded in the absolute, patient certainty of its own materials. You can feel that certainty now. Your rest is not a temporary break. It is a deep structural necessity. You are building your own vault of energy for the future. Visualize the mountain N, the great heads of the presidents looking out over the silent plains. Deep behind Lincoln's stone ear, in the cold heart of the tunnel, the titanium guardian sits in the dark. It is cool to the touch. It is silent. It is perfect. As you fall into sleep, imagine yourself resting your head against that smooth titanium surface. Feel the strength of it. Feel the cold, calming power of a metal that never sleeps, so that the history it holds can rest forever. You are safe. You are sealed. You are protected by the titanium, the teak, and the granite. The world outside may change, the stars may shift their positions, but here, in the vault of your dreams, everything is preserved in perfect clarity. Sleep now, as the image of the silver-gray vault and the noble argon gas fades into the deep, unchanging dark of the mountain. In the next part, we will explore the porcelain prophets, the 16 panels that carry our words into eternity, and the secret art of high-fire enamel. But for now, there is only the quiet, there is only the dark, there is only sleep.
The porcelain prophets. We have descended past the granite capstone, through the teakwood cradle, and into the heart of the titanium guardian. Now we unlock the vault's true treasure. In this chapter, we explore the porcelain prophets, the 16 panels of high-fire enamel that carry the voice of a nation into the distant future. These are not merely documents, they are the DNA of a civilization, etched into a medium that refuses to rot, fade, or burn. As we visualize these tablets in the absolute darkness of the mountain, we realize that they are the ultimate message in a bottle tossed into the ocean of time. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine the physical nature of these prophets. These are not fragile plates of china. They are panels made of specialized steel coated in multiple layers of porcelain enamel. Visualize the process of their creation, the white glass powder being dusted onto the metal and then shoved into a furnace at nearly 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. At that heat, the glass melts and fuses into the steel, becoming a single indestructible substance. Breathe in the memory of that heat, a purifying fire that creates a surface as smooth as ice and as hard as diamond. This is the skin of our history. As you drift deeper into relaxation, imagine the first panel being brought into the light. It is the Declaration of Independence. The familiar flowing script of the 18th century has been digitally etched into the enamel. Every loop of the J in John Hancock's signature, every defiant word against tyranny, is now a permanent physical feature of the porcelain. It doesn't rely on ink that can be washed away. The words are part of the stone-like surface itself. Think about the permanence of that thought. In 5,000 years, if a curious hand wipes away the dust of the mountain, the words life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness will still be as crisp and legible as the day they were fired. Now move your mind to the second and third panels, the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. These are the blueprints of freedom. Visualize the intricate columns of text, the carefully structured laws that hold a society together. In the dark of the vault, these words possess a strange power. They are the prophecies of how a free people chose to govern themselves. Breathe out and let the weight of these laws ground you. Just as these rules provide a structure for a nation, let your breath provide a structure for your rest. You are governed now by the laws of sleep, steady, rhythmic, and absolute. Think about the panels dedicated to the 4 presidents on the mountain's face. One panel for Washington, the founder, one for Jefferson, the author, one for Roosevelt, the conservator, and one for Lincoln, the liberator. These panels contain more than just names. They contain their biographies, their greatest speeches, and the reasons they were chosen to represent the American spirit. Imagine the porcelain image of Lincoln, his weary but determined eyes etched into the white enamel. These are the prophets of the mountain, their life stories preserved in a place where no political storm or historical revision can ever touch them. But there is a 16th panel, perhaps the most important of all. It is the key panel. It contains the story of Mount Rushmore itself, the measurements of the faces, the names of the workers, and a map of the United States as it appeared in the 20th century. It even includes a diagram of the solar system to help future explorers understand when these records were placed here. It is a letter from us to them. Imagine the silence of the vault as it holds this map. It is a silent guide for a traveler who has not yet been born. Breathe in the cool, stable air of the chamber. As you visualize these 16 panels sitting in their titanium racks, notice how they are separated by thin layers of acid-free material to prevent them from ever touching. They are held in a state of perfect, lonely dignity. They do not need to be read to exist. Their value lies in their potential. Like a seed buried deep in the frozen earth, they carry the instructions for a world that might one day need to be rebuilt. You are like those panels tonight. Your potential is being preserved in the vault of your sleep. Your ideas, your strengths, and your stories are being kept safe and untarnished for the morning. Think about the prophet aspect of these tablets. A prophet is someone who speaks to a time beyond their own. These porcelain panels are speaking to the year 10,000 AD,
They are telling that distant future that we were here, that we dreamed of justice, and that we valued our history enough to carve it into a mountain and seal it in fire. It is a profound act of hope. To build a hall of records is to believe that there will be a future to find it. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the porcelain panels glowing with a faint imaginary light. They are the white stones of revelation. In the darkness of the mountain, they are the only things that are truly white and pure. The granite is gray, the titanium is silver, but the porcelain is a brilliant surgical white. It represents the clarity of truth. You can feel that clarity now. The clutter of your day is being filtered out, leaving only the porcelain of your true self, the essential things, the enduring things. Visualize the vault once more, tucked behind the massive granite head of Lincoln. The 16 prophets are resting in their titanium cradle, surrounded by noble argon gas. They are silent. They are cold. They are perfect. You are resting with them. You are part of the deep archive of the earth. The mountain is your guardian, and the porcelain is your witness. Breathe in the cool, stable air of the chamber. Breathe out all the noise of the temporary world. You are entering the world of the permanent. You are entering the world of the prophets. The record is complete. The message is safe. And you are at peace. Sleep now, as the image of the white porcelain tablets and the gold-etched words fades into the deep, unchanging shadows of the granite vault. In the next part, we will explore the shadow of the Lakota, the ancient spiritual history of the mountain, and the conflict between the stone's secret room and the sacred land it stands upon. But for now, there is only the quiet. There is only the dark. There is only sleep.
The shadow of the Lakota. We have spoken of titanium, porcelain, and the ambition of a modern nation. But to truly understand the mountain, we must acknowledge that the Hall of Records was not carved into a blank slate. It was carved into a living, breathing body of stone that already had a name and a soul long before Gutzon Borglum ever arrived. In this chapter, we explore the shadow of the Lakota, the ancient spiritual history of the Black Hills, or Paha Sapa, and the complex tension between the secret room of the presidents and the sacred land of the indigenous peoples. To enter the hall is to step into a place of dual histories, where the granite holds both a new American dream and a much older ancestral heartbeat. Take a slow, deep breath and visualize the Black Hills as they appeared thousands of years ago. To the Lakota Sioux, these were not just hills, they were the heart of everything that is. Imagine the mountain we call Rushmore as it looked before the first blast of dynamite. The Lakota called it Tunkashila Shakpe, or the Six Grandfathers. It was a place of prayer, a place where the earth's energy was thought to be most concentrated. The granite wasn't seen as a building material, but as the literal bones of the ancestors. Breathe in the scent of burning sage and damp pine, the ancient atmosphere of a mountain that was a temple long before it was a monument. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the shadow that the monument casts. To the Lakota, the carving of the 4 presidents into the 6 grandfathers was not an act of art, but an act of desecration. The Hall of Records, tucked secretly behind the head of Lincoln, represents a second layer of this claim. It is a room of Western history placed inside a mountain of indigenous spirituality. Visualize the two histories overlapping like shadows at dusk. While the titanium vault holds the U.S. Constitution, the very stone it sits in holds the memory of the Great Spirit, Wakan Tanka. Feel the weight of this complexity. The mountain is a bridge between two worlds that have often struggled to understand each other. Breathe out and let the tension of this history settle into the earth. Just as the mountain must hold both the faces of the presidents and its original form, you can hold the complexities of your own life. You can be a person of the future and a person of the past. You can have your hall of records, your plans and your legacy, while still honoring the 6 grandfathers of your own ancestry and roots. The mountain does not break under the weight of these 2 stories, it simply endures. It is wide enough and deep enough to contain it all. Now visualize the spirit of the stone. There is a legend among the Lakota that the Black Hills are a giant sleeping heart that beats once every 1,000 years. Imagine that heartbeat, a low, rhythmic thrumming deep within the granite. When Borglum's men were jackhammering the tunnel for the Hall of Records, they were vibrating against that ancient heart. Some say the hauntings reported at Mount Rushmore are not the ghosts of presidents, but the restless energy of the mountain itself, trying to reclaim its original name. In the absolute silence of the hall at night, if you listen closely, you don't hear the echoes of 1998. You hear the wind whistling through the pines, a sound that hasn't changed in 10,000 years. Think about the secret aspect of the room from a different perspective. To a culture that believes the earth should remain untouched, a secret room filled with titanium and porcelain is a strange alien insertion. But notice how the mountain has swallowed the hall. From the ground, you cannot see the entrance. The granite has wrapped its gray arms around the vault, hiding the human records within its own ancient bulk. It is as if the 6 grandfathers have agreed to guard the secret, even if they didn't ask for it. There is a profound mercy in the stone. It accepts the burden of our history without losing its own identity. Breathe in the cool, grounded energy of the Paha Sapa. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the mountain as a silent witness to all who have walked beneath it. It saw the Lakota hunters, it saw the gold miners, it saw the sculptors, and now it sees the tourists. The shadow of the Lakota is not a dark shadow, but a protective one. It is the reminder that the earth is older than our laws and more permanent than our documents. When you sleep tonight, you are not just resting in a room, you are resting on the heart of everything that is. You are part of a cycle that is much larger than a single lifetime. Visualize the Hall of Records once more. The 16 porcelain panels are resting in their titanium cradle. But outside the vault, in the rough-hewn granite walls of the tunnel, there are no engravings. The stone is natural, jagged, and raw. This is where the 2 stories meet. The civilized message is protected by the wild mountain. As you fall into sleep, imagine yourself standing at that junction. You have the clarity of the porcelain, but you also have the raw, unshakable strength of the ancient granite. You are both the record and the mountain. Think about the wind as it moves across the faces of the 4 presidents and then curls around the back of the mountain to enter the secret tunnel. That wind has traveled across the plains, over the sacred sites of the Sioux, and through the needles of the ponderosa pines. It carries the prayers of the past and the dreams of the future. Let that wind blow through your mind now, clearing away the clutter of the day. It leaves behind only the essential peace of the Black Hills. You are safe in the shadow of the mountain. You are secure in the heart of the stone. The history of the land and the history of the nation are at rest tonight, balanced in the deep, heavy silence of the granite. The 6 grandfathers are watching over the vault, and they are watching over you. Sleep now, as the image of the sacred hills and the secret room fades into a single unified darkness. There is no conflict here in the deep night. There is only the mountain. There is only the breath. There is only sleep. The cold geometry of secrets. We have explored the visions of artists and the ancestral echoes of the Lakota. Now we move into the silent world of mathematics and physics. Behind the colossal heads of Mount Rushmore, the Hall of Records is not just a room, it is a masterpiece of structural engineering and spatial logic. In this chapter, we explore the cold geometry of secrets, the precise dimensions, the calculated angles, and the hidden physics that keep this man-made void from being crushed by the millions of tons of granite pressing down upon it. To enter this part of the story is to understand that the vault's survival depends as much on geometry as it does on stone. Take a slow, deep breath and visualize the mountain from a bird's eye view. Imagine you have X-ray vision peering through the 1.6 billion-year-old rock. You see the four massive faces, and then 70 feet behind the forehead of Abraham Lincoln, you see a sharp rectangular void. This is the tunnel. In the world of cold geometry, there are no curves, only the harsh, deliberate lines of human intent. The tunnel is roughly 14 feet high and 10 feet wide, a proportion designed to be human-scaled, yet imposing. Breathe in the stillness of that perfectly measured space. It is a geometry of absolute order in a mountain of chaotic natural crags. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the arch of resistance. Gutzon Borglum knew that a flat ceiling in a granite mountain was a recipe for disaster. Over centuries, the immense weight of the peak above would cause the stone to flex and eventually collapse. To prevent this, the hall was designed with a slightly vaulted, arched ceiling. Imagine that curve, a subtle, strong arc that distributes the vertical pressure of the mountain outward into the sidewalls. It is the same principle used in the great cathedrals of Europe, but here, the flying buttresses are millions of tons of solid granite. Breathe out and feel that same structural strength in your own body. Your skeleton is your arch. It holds the weight of your world, allowing your muscles and mind to go completely limp and heavy. Now, visualize the precision of the entrance. The opening of the hall was not placed randomly. It was carved into a recessed section of the canyon wall to protect it from the direct impact of falling ice and boulders. The geometry of the entrance is a stepped design, drawing the eye inward. Borglum used the golden ratio in his initial sketches, the mathematical proportion found in seashells and galaxies, to ensure the hall felt right to the human soul. Even though the room is unfinished and raw, its dimensions feel intentional. It doesn't feel like a cave, it feels like a sanctuary. Think about the thermal stability of this geometry. Because the room is located deep within the thermal mass of the mountain, the temperature inside never fluctuates. It is a constant 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of whether a blizzard is howling outside or the South Dakota sun is baking the rock. This cold geometry creates a perfect microclimate for the records. There is no expansion or contraction of the titanium vault because the mountain provides a level of insulation that no modern refrigerator could match. Imagine that steady, unchanging coolness. It is a temperature that invites preservation. It is a temperature that invites sleep. Breathe in the unchanging air of the vault. As you visualize the 16 porcelain panels resting in their racks, notice the spatial alignment. They are aligned to the cardinal points of the compass. The vault is a compass in the dark, pointing toward a future we cannot see. Borglum wanted the hall to be a standard of measure, a place where the very dimensions of the room reflected the order and law of the nation it represented. There is a profound peace in this kind of order. When the world outside feels chaotic and unpredictable, the Hall of Records remains a place of fixed angles and stable mass. Now, consider the weight of the void. For every cubic foot of air in the tunnel, the mountain has lost over 160 pounds of granite. The secret of the room is that it is a controlled absence.
It is a hole that the mountain has agreed to keep open. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine your own mind as a hall of records. You are clearing away the granite of your worries, the heavy stones of your to-do lists, and the rubble of your anxieties. You are creating a cold geometry of peace within yourself, a clean, rectangular space where your core self can rest, protected by the massive weight of your own strength. Visualize the granite capstone again, the final geometric piece of the puzzle. It fits into the floor with a tolerance of less than a fraction of an inch. It is a plug in the earth. Beneath it, the titanium vault sits in its perfectly measured pit. Everything is in its place. There is no wasted space. There is no disorder. As you fall into sleep, let your breathing become as rhythmic and measured as the dimensions of the hall. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. A square of breath, a geometry of calm. You are safe in the mathematics of the mountain. You are secure in the physics of the stone. The cold geometry of the Hall of Records is a shield against the chaos of time. The mountain is not pressing down on you, it is holding the world away from you. You are in the most stable place on earth. Breathe in the scent of cold stone and ancient dust. Breathe out all the jagged edges of your day. You are smoothing out the rough walls of your mind. You are becoming a sanctuary of perfect proportions. The records are sealed. The angles are true. The mountain is steady.
The Silent Sentinels. We have deciphered the mathematics of the stone and felt the ancient weight of the mountain's foundation, but do not be fooled by the stillness. Though the Hall of Records sits in a realm of deep geological silence, it is far from unguarded. In this chapter, we explore the Silent Sentinels, the sophisticated network of modern security, invisible sensors, and elite human guardians that protect the Forbidden Chamber today. To approach the hall is to cross a series of invisible tripwires, both digital and physical, that ensure the titanium vault remains undisturbed until the time it was meant to be found. Take a slow, deep breath and visualize the north portico of the mountain under the light of a hunter's moon. To a casual observer, the forest and the granite cliffs look wild and empty, but the mountain is wired. Hidden among the ponderosa pines and tucked into the natural crevices of the rock are high-definition thermal cameras. These are the eyes that never blink. They don't just see light, they see heat. Imagine the heat signature of a human body appearing as a bright, glowing ghost against the cold, dark blue of the granite. Any movement toward the forbidden rear of the mountain is instantly flagged in a secure command center. Breathe in the cool, crisp air of the night and feel the safety of being watched over. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the seismic sensors buried in the mountain's skin. These sentinels are so sensitive they can detect the vibration of a footfall on stone from hundreds of yards away. They are tuned to the frequency of the mountain. They can distinguish between the natural shifting of the granite and the rhythmic artificial thud of a climber's boot. Visualize the data streaming into a computer screen, steady, flat lines that suddenly jump when something touches the rock. It is like the mountain has a nervous system, feeling every touch, every vibration, and every heartbeat. Now, move your mind to the motion-activated laser grids. While much of this is classified, it is whispered that the entrance to the tunnel is protected by invisible beams of light. If a bird flies through, the system ignores it, but if a solid mass, a person, breaks the connection, an alarm is triggered far below at the ranger station. These are the silent sentinels of light. They don't make a sound, they don't glow, and they don't move. They simply wait. Breathe out and let your mind become like those lasers,
focused, steady, and undisturbed by the passing birds of random thoughts. Think about the human guardians, the National Park Service rangers, and the specialized security teams who patrol the Black Hills. These are men and women trained in high-angle rescue and tactical surveillance. They know every crevice, every ledge, and every secret path of Mount Rushmore. Imagine them moving through the forest in the dark, using night vision goggles that turn the world into a neon green dreamscape. They are not there to catch tourists. They are there to protect a sacred trust. They are the living extension of the mountain's will. They ensure that the Hall of Records remains a secret, not because it is a threat, but because it is a treasure that must be earned by time itself. Breathe in the scent of pine needles and ozone. Breathe out and feel yourself becoming invisible to the world's sensors. You have passed through the perimeter of your day. You have crossed the thermal lines and moved past the cameras. Now you are in the dead zone of sleep, a place where no one can track you and no one can disturb you. You are in the inner sanctum. The silent sentinels are standing at the door, facing outward, keeping the chaos of life away from your bed. Visualize the mountain again, standing tall against the stars. The sensors are active, the cameras are scanning, and the rangers are on watch. But inside the tunnel, behind the head of Lincoln, it is perfectly still. The titanium vault is safe. The sentinels are doing their job so that the silence can remain absolute. You can trust that silence now. You can lean into the dark and let go of the vigil. You don't have to watch anymore. Someone else is doing it for you. Imagine the glowing monitors in the command center fading to a soft amber light. The seismic lines are flat and steady. The mountain is at peace. You are at peace. The security is perfect. The secret is safe. Sleep now, as the image of the high-tech sensors and the watchful guardians fades into the deep, unchanging dark of the granite vault. In the next part, we will explore the echoes of the void, the strange acoustic properties of the chamber, and why the room speaks back to those who stand within it. But for now, there is only the quiet. There is only the dark. There is sleep.
The echoes of the void. We have bypassed the cameras and moved through the invisible grid of the modern world. Now, we step across the threshold into the 70-foot tunnel itself. As we leave the wind of the South Dakota peaks behind, we encounter the most haunting feature of the hall, its voice. In this chapter, we explore the echoes of the void, the strange architectural acoustics of the chamber, and the profound, heavy silence that exists only in the heart of a mountain. To stand in the Hall of Records is to realize that silence is not just the absence of sound. It is a physical presence that listens to you as much as you listen to it. Take a slow, deep breath and listen. In your world, silence is often filled with the hum of a refrigerator, the distant drone of traffic, or the ticking of a clock. But inside the granite vault, those frequencies do not exist. The granite walls are 14 feet high and 10 feet wide, and they are rough-hewn, covered in the jagged ridges left by jackhammers and drills. These irregularities create a unique acoustic environment called diffuse scattering. Instead of sound bouncing back clearly like a mirror, it is broken apart by the stone. Visualize a sound wave hitting the wall and shattering into 1,000 tiny fragments. Breathe in the stillness of that shattered sound. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the weight of the quiet. When you speak in the hall, your voice doesn't travel far. The sheer mass of the mountain, millions of tons of dense 1.6 billion-year-old stone, acts as a perfect acoustic sponge. It absorbs the vibrations of the human voice almost instantly. Imagine saying your own name in the dark of the tunnel. It doesn't echo, it simply drops. It is as if the mountain is swallowing your words, holding them in its stone throat. This creates a psychological sensation of being held. You are in a space that doesn't talk back, a space that accepts everything and gives nothing away. Breathe out and let your own thoughts drop like those words. You don't need to carry the echoes of today's conversations into your sleep. You don't need to replay the arguments or the plans. Let the granite of your mind absorb the noise. Like the Hall of Records, you are becoming a vessel of quiet mass. The void within you is not empty. It is a sanctuary of stillness where the vibrations of the world finally come to rest. Now, visualize the infrasonic hum. While the human ear cannot hear it, the mountain is constantly vibrating at a very low frequency, the Schumann resonance of the earth itself. These are sounds below 20 hertz, felt more in the chest than in the ears. In the absolute silence of the vault, some explorers have reported a thrumming sensation, as if the mountain is purring. This is the sound of the earth shifting, the wind hitting the distant peaks, and the deep tectonic pulse of the continent. It is the heartbeat of the six grandfathers. Imagine that low, steady thrumming beneath your bed. It is a grounding frequency, a rhythm that has existed for eons. It tells your nervous system that the earth is stable. It tells your heart that it is safe to slow down. Think about the acoustic shadow of the vault. Because of the way the tunnel is tucked behind the head of Lincoln, it exists in a dead zone. Even a thunderstorm outside, with cracks of lightning that shake the valley, is heard inside the hall as nothing more than a faint rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat in the distance. The geometry of the tunnel acts as a natural noise-canceling chamber. You are 70 feet deep in the rock. The world could end outside, and in the Hall of Records, the silence would remain unbroken. Breathe in the scent of cold, ancient dust and the mineral tang of the stone. Imagine the ghost echoes, the sounds that should be there but aren't. There are no footsteps here. There is no breathing other than your own. In this vacuum of sound, your own heartbeat becomes a drum. You become aware of the rush of blood in your ears, the internal ocean of your own life. This is the gift of the void. By removing all external noise, the mountain forces you to hear your own existence. It is a place of absolute self-reflection. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the 16 porcelain panels sitting in the dark. They are the only listeners in the hall. They listen to the mountain's hum. They listen to the centuries passing. They are the silent witnesses of a history that is now frozen in time. You are joining them in that vigil. You are becoming a silent sentinel of your own peace. The echoes of the void are not frightening. They are a lullaby of absolute nothingness. Visualize the tunnel again, stretching back into the dark. The walls are still. The air is unmoving. Every sound from your day has been shattered against the granite and absorbed into the deep black stone. There is nothing left to hear. There is nothing left to say. You are in the quiet zone, a place where even your breath becomes a soft, rhythmic wave that carries you further and further away from the shore of wakefulness. The mountain is quiet. The vault is silent. The records are at rest. You are sinking into the heavy quiet, the deep acoustic safety of the earth's heart. Sleep now, as the image of the jagged stone walls and the velvet blackness of the tunnel fades into a single, perfect silence. In the next part, we will explore the vault of the stars, how the alignment of the mountain connects the hidden records to the constellations above. But for now, there is only the quiet. There is only the dark. There is only sleep.
The Vault of the Stars.
The Guardians of the Gateway. We have looked at the stars and listened to the silence, but what of the human element? A secret room is only as compelling as the people who seek to find it. In this chapter, we explore the Guardians of the Gateway, the stories of the modern-day explorers, the accidental discoverers, and the dedicated rangers who manage the threshold between the public monument and the forbidden vault. While the Hall of Records is officially closed to the world, its gravity pulls on the curious, the brave, and the obsessive. This is the story of those who have stood at the mouth of the cave and what they felt when they peered into the darkness behind Lincoln's eyes. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine the feeling of being an outsider. Visualize a lone climber, skilled and quiet, moving through the black hills at dawn. To the millions of tourists below, the mountain is a photo opportunity. But to the guardian seekers, it is a riddle. There are legends in the local towns of South Dakota, Keystone, and Hill City of people who found unmarked trails leading up the back of the mountain. Imagine the thrill of finding a path that doesn't appear on any map, a trail overgrown with juniper and pine, where the only tracks are those of mountain goats and the occasional ranger's boot. Breathe in the scent of wet earth and mystery. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the accidental discoverers. In the years before the high-tech sensors of Part 11 were fully installed, a few hikers occasionally wandered too far. Imagine a hiker in the 1970s cresting a ridge and suddenly coming face to face with the 70-foot tunnel. They described a feeling of temporal displacement, as if they had stepped out of the 20th century and into a tomb from the future. There was no titanium vault then, only a jagged, empty throat of stone. They spoke of the pressure of the mountain's gaze, a feeling that they were standing in a place where humans were not yet meant to be. Breathe out and let that sense of unbelonging transform into a sense of protection. You are not an intruder in your own rest. You are the invited guest. Unlike the hikers who stumbled upon the hall, you have the key. You are allowed to be here, in the quiet spaces of your mind. The guardians of your sleep are not there to keep you out, but to keep the distractions away. You are safe within the perimeter. Now visualize the Ranger's Vigil. The true guardians of the Gateway are the men and women of the National Park Service. For them, the Hall of Records is not a conspiracy, it is a custodial duty. Imagine a ranger doing a routine inspection of the tunnel floor. They carry a heavy flashlight, its beam cutting through the velvet blackness. They check the granite capstone for cracks. They look for signs of moisture or shifting. To them, the hall is like a sleeping giant that needs to be tucked in. They treat the space with a quiet, professional reverence. They are the bridge between the visionary Borglum and the future civilization that will one day open the vault. Think about the gatekeepers of information. There are archivists in Washington, D.C. who hold the records of the Hall of Records. They are the ones who know exactly how deep the pit is and exactly how many porcelain panels are stored inside. They are the silent librarians of the mountain. Imagine a dusty basement in the National Archives where a single folder marked Mount Rushmore, restricted, holds the secrets of the mountain's interior. These guardians ensure that the mystery remains intact, preventing the hall from becoming just another tourist attraction. They understand that for a message to be powerful, it must remain rare. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine standing at the entrance of the tunnel with one of these guardians. They don't say a word, they simply point inward. They are showing you that the greatest secrets are often the simplest ones. A box, a room, and a long wait. The guardians are not there to hide the truth, but to preserve the weight of the truth. They know that if everyone could walk into the hall, the sacredness of the record would evaporate. By keeping the gateway closed, they are keeping the dream alive. Breathe in the cool, stable air of the threshold. Visualize the threshold effect, the moment your body relaxes as you move from one space to another. You are crossing a threshold now, moving from the public square of your waking life into the secret vault of your sleep. You are leaving the noise, the crowds, and the tourists of your day behind. You are being escorted by the guardians into the inner sanctum. They are closing the heavy stone doors behind you, ensuring that you will not be disturbed until the morning sun hits the face of Washington. The mountain is a fortress of memories. The guardians are at their posts. The sensors are quiet. The hikers have gone home. Inside the hall, behind the eyes of Lincoln, the air is perfectly still. You are resting in the care of those who value the future. You are a treasure worth guarding. Your rest is a record worth keeping. Visualize the mountain one last time tonight. It is a silhouette against the stars. At the very top, tucked away in the shadows, is the gateway. It is a dark, rectangular promise. You are sleeping inside that promise. You are safe. You are secure. The guardians are watching. Sleep now as the image of the watchful rangers and the hidden trails fades into the deep, unchanging dark of the granite vault. In the next part, we will explore the 10,000-year language, how the records were designed to be understood by people who might no longer speak English. But for now, there is only the quiet. There is only the dark. There is only sleep. The 10,000-year language. We have stood with the guardians at the threshold, but now we must confront the most difficult question of all. If the Hall of Records is discovered 10,000 years from now, who will be there to read it? Language is a living, dying thing. Just as we struggle to read the ancient glyphs of the Maya, or the earliest cuneiform of Sumer, the people of the distant future may look at our English alphabet as nothing more than strange, decorative scratches. In this chapter, we explore the 10,000-year language, the ingenious way the Hall of Records uses nuclear semiotics and universal symbols to ensure its message survives the death of our own tongue. Take a slow, deep breath and think about the passage of time. In 10,000 years, empires will have risen and fallen like tides. The English language, as we speak it today, will likely be a linguistic fossil. To solve this, the designers of the 1998 vault looked to the stars and the fundamental laws of nature. Visualize the first porcelain panel. It doesn't just start with words, it starts with geometry. It uses the language of mathematics, the one language that remains constant across the universe. Imagine an etching of a circle, a triangle, and a square. These are the anchors of meaning. Breathe in the stability of these shapes. They are true today, and they will be true in the year 12,000 AD. As you drift deeper into relaxation, consider the pictographic bridge. The records use a method known as iconographic storytelling. Next to the text of the Constitution, there are tiny, detailed etchings of human figures in various states of interaction, shaking hands, standing in groups, or pointing to the scales of justice. These are visual verbs. They explain the intent behind the words. Even if a future explorer cannot translate the word liberty, they can see the image of a person stepping out of a cage. They can feel the universal human desire for space and autonomy. Breathe out and let your own visual mind take over. You don't need words to feel peace. You only need the image of the still mountain and the dark room. Now visualize the scientific Rosetta Stone. One of the panels is dedicated to the atomic language. It shows a diagram of the hydrogen atom, the most common element in the universe. By using the vibration of a hydrogen atom as a unit of time or unit of measure, we give the future a ruler to measure us by. We are telling them we knew the secrets of the atom. We understood the building blocks of reality. This creates an instant intellectual bond between us and whoever finds the vault. It proves that the people who built this mountain were not primitive, but a civilization of science and reason. Breathe in the cold, clear logic of the atom. Feel the electrons spinning in perfect, silent orbits. Your own body is made of this same universal language. Every cell in your lungs, every spark in your brain is part of this 10,000-year-old script. You are a living record of the universe's design. As you relax, let the small, petty languages of your daily worries fade away. The language of stress is temporary. The language of the atom is eternal. You are returning to your most fundamental, peaceful state. Think about the key to the alphabet. One panel acts as a dictionary. It shows a picture of an object, a tree, a bird, a man, and next to it, the English word for that object. Below that, it shows the phonetic breakdown of how to say it. It is a how-to-read manual for a dead civilization. Imagine a future researcher, thousands of years from now, tracing their finger over the porcelain and finally realizing that APPLE refers to the fruit. It is a moment of profound connection across the abyss of time. The Hall of Records is not a tomb, it is a classroom. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the 16 panels as a linguistic time capsule. They are waiting in the argon gas, holding their breath, keeping the English language alive in a vacuum. Outside the mountain, languages will shift, slang will come and go, and eventually, the way we speak will vanish into the wind. But inside the granite vault, the A will still be an A. The word hope will still be hope. You are entering that vacuum now. You are leaving the world of noisy communication and entering the world of silent meaning. Visualize the mountain at night. It is a giant stone book. The faces of the presidents are the illustrations, and the Hall of Records is the text. The mountain doesn't need to speak out loud to tell its story. Its very presence is a statement. Its language is the language of mass, endurance, and silence. You are speaking that language now with your own body. Your stillness is your statement. Your deep, rhythmic breathing is your poetry. The titanium is guarding the words. The porcelain is holding the shapes. The argon is preserving the ink. Everything is prepared for a conversation that will happen long after we are gone. You can let go of the need to explain yourself. You can let go of the need to be understood. Tonight, it is enough to simply be. You are a record that doesn't need to be read yet. Sleep now, as the image of the hydrogen atoms and the porcelain dictionaries fades into the deep, unchanging dark of the granite vault. In the next part, we will explore the 1941 abandonment, the heartbreaking moment when the drills stopped and the mountain was left to the elements. But for now, there is only the quiet. There is only the dark. There is only sleep.
The 1941 abandonment. We have traveled through the high-tech preservation of the future and the ancient math of the stars. Now, we must return to a moment of profound human silence, a day when the music of the mountain suddenly stopped. In this chapter, we explore the 1941 abandonment,
the heartbreaking turning point when the drills fell silent. The workers packed their bags, and the Hall of Records was left as a raw, gaping wound in the granite. This is the story of the day a dream was interrupted by death and destiny, leaving the mountain to wait in a state of unfinished perfection. Take a slow, deep breath and visualize the mountain in early March 1941. The air in South Dakota is still bitingly cold, the wind whipping off the granite peaks of the Black Hills. For 14 years, this mountain has been a hive of activity. But on March 6th, a telegram arrives that changes everything. Gutzon Borglum is dead. Imagine the shock that ripples through the crew, the men who had spent over a decade suspended by cables, risking their lives for one man's obsessive vision. Without their old man, the mountain suddenly feels much larger and much more indifferent. Breathe in the heavy, somber air of that spring morning. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the frozen echo. Borglum's son, Lincoln Borglum, took over the supervision, but the momentum was gone. The United States was on the precipice of World War II. Resources, steel, dynamite, and money were being diverted to the war effort in Europe and the Pacific. Congress, which had always been a reluctant partner in the Hall of Records project, saw its chance to close the book. They ordered the work to stop. Visualize the final day of work. The honeycomb drills are pulled out of the rock for the last time. The jackhammers are silenced. The constant, rhythmic thudding that had become the heartbeat of the canyon simply stops. Breathe out and let your own internal engines stop. Like the workers in 1941, you are laying down your tools. You are turning off the machinery of your productivity. The project of your day is officially closed. Whether it feels finished or unfinished doesn't matter now. The mountain is calling for silence. You are allowing yourself the grace of the pause. Now, visualize the unfinished state. Imagine walking into the Hall of Records in October 1941. The grand staircase we discussed in Part 6 hasn't even been started. The entrance is just a jagged 70-foot hole. The walls are not polished. They are covered in the rough scars of the drills. There are no chandeliers, no bronze eagles, and no porcelain tablets. It is a room of almost. There is something hauntingly beautiful about this incompletion. It is a reminder that even the grandest human plans are subject to the whims of time. The mountain had won the first round, reclaimed by a silence that would last for over 50 years. Think about the abandonment of the equipment. In the rush to close down the site, some things were simply left behind. Imagine old rusted drill bits, coils of frayed hemp rope, and wooden crates sitting in the shadows of the tunnel, slowly gathering dust. These were the relics of the struggle. For decades, they were the only inhabitants of the secret room. They stood as silent witnesses to the sweat and blood of the men who had carved 70 feet into solid granite, only to be told that their work was no longer necessary. Breathe in the scent of wet iron and old wood, the smell of a history that was put on hold. As you drift closer to sleep, consider the long sleep of the mountain. From 1941 to 1998, the Hall of Records was a ghost room. Generations of tourists visited the faces of the presidents, never knowing that just behind Lincoln's forehead was a dark void where a dream had died. But in that abandonment, there was protection.
Because it was unfinished, because it was forgotten by the public, the mountain was able to preserve the core of the idea until the world was ready to finish it in a different way. Sometimes being set aside is the only way to survive. Visualize the mountain at night in the 1940s. There were no floodlights then. The faces of the presidents emerge from the dark only when the moon hits them. And behind them, that secret door is a perfect black rectangle. It is the eye of the mountain, looking inward. You are doing that now. You are turning your gaze inward, away from the project of your life, and into the quiet, dark tunnel of your own rest. You don't need to be finished to be whole. You don't need to have every goal reached to deserve peace. The mountain was unfinished for 50 years, and it was still a masterpiece. The drills are silent. The cables are still. The workers have gone home. The mountain is no longer a construction site. It is a monument. You are no longer a worker of your own life. You are a sanctuary. Let the heavy, grounding weight of the 1941 silence settle over you. It is a silence that doesn't ask for anything. It is a silence that is content to simply exist. Breathe in the cold mountain air. Breathe out the need for completion. You are resting in the hall of the unfinished. It is a place of absolute safety where time has no power to rush you. The record is not yet written, and that is why it is perfect.
The modern mystery. We have walked through the dust of the 1941 abandonment and felt the cold reality of the mountain's unfinished heart. But when a space is left empty and forbidden for over half a century, it does not remain silent in the human imagination. In this chapter, we explore the modern mystery, the explosion of conspiracy theories, pop culture legends, and wild speculations that filled the 70-foot void behind Abraham Lincoln. When the government stopped drilling, the storytellers began. To understand the Hall of Records today, we must look at the fictional vault that exists in the minds of millions, a place where history, Hollywood, and mystery collide. Take a slow, deep breath and visualize the mountain through the lens of a mystery seeker. For decades, the public knew something was back there, but they weren't allowed to see it. This forbidden status acted like a magnet for the human imagination. Imagine a late-night radio broadcast in the 1980s, voices whispering about secret bunkers and hidden archives. Because the National Park Service denied access, the void became a canvas. People began to ask, if it's just an empty room, why can't we go inside? Breathe in the electric air of a good mystery, the feeling that the world is much deeper and more complex than what we see on the surface. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the Hollywood influence. Perhaps the most famous modern legend comes from the film National Treasure, Book of Secrets. In the movie, the Hall of Records is not just a room with porcelain tablets. It is a sprawling, high-tech labyrinth filled with the lost treasures of ancient civilizations and the secret Book of Secrets shared by American presidents. Imagine a hidden lever behind a rock, a stone door sliding open with a heavy grind, and a golden city revealed in the mountain's belly. While this is fiction, it changed the way the world looks at Mount Rushmore. Now, when tourists look up at the mountain, they aren't just seeing 4 presidents, they are looking for the secret door. Breathe out and let the fictions of your own day dissolve. You don't need to be a character in a movie. You don't need to solve a grand mystery tonight. Like the real Hall of Records, which is much simpler and more poetic than the movies suggest, your true self is found in the quiet, solid reality of the present moment. You are not a book of secrets. You are a mountain of peace. Now visualize the conspiracy landscape. In the dark corners of the internet and in the minds of theorists, the Hall of Records is rumored to be many things. Some claim it is a continuity of government bunker, a place where the elite would hide during a nuclear strike. Others whisper that it holds evidence of extraterrestrial contact or that it is a gateway to a hollow Earth. Imagine these theories as swirling mists around the granite peaks. They are exciting, they are complex, but they are just wind. The mountain doesn't care about the theories. It knows exactly what it holds: 16 porcelain panels and a lot of silence. Think about the Mandela effect and the psychological power of the secret. Many people grew up believing there were actual rooms inside the president's heads, offices or living quarters. While Borglum did have a small studio on the mountain, the reality of the Hall of Records is more abstract. It is a time capsule, not a clubhouse. But the desire for it to be more is a testament to our need for wonder. We want our monuments to have secrets. We want our history to have hidden levels. Breathe in the scent of old paper and the cool, damp smell of a cave. As you relax, acknowledge that your mind also has secret rooms. You have memories, dreams, and thoughts that are for you and you alone. You are the guardian of your own inner Hall of Records. Just as the Park Service guards the tunnel behind Lincoln, you have the right to keep your inner world private, sacred, and undisturbed. You are a mountain with your own mysteries, and tonight you are allowing those mysteries to simply rest in the dark. Consider the 1998 revelation. When the vault was finally placed in the floor, many conspiracy theorists were disappointed. They wanted gold. They found porcelain. They wanted aliens. They found the Bill of Rights. But there is a deeper mystery in the truth. The real modern mystery is the fact that in an age of digital files and cloud storage, we still felt the need to bury physical objects in a mountain. The mystery is our own obsession with permanence. Why do we care so much if someone remembers us in 10,000 years? As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the mountain as it is right now. The Hollywood cameras are gone. The conspiracy theorists are asleep. The mountain is reclaimed by the stars and the wind. Behind the head of Lincoln, the real Hall of Records sits in total, unglamorous, and profound darkness. It isn't a movie set. It is a sanctuary. It isn't a bunker. It is a letter. It is the most honest place in the world because it doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Visualize yourself as that room. You are not performing for an audience. You are not trying to solve a puzzle. You are just a space, a 70-foot void of perfect, cool stillness. The rumors of the world cannot reach you here. The modern mystery is over, and the eternal peace has begun. Breathe in the strength of the granite. Breathe out the noise of the legends. You are grounded in the truth. You are safe in the stone. The mountain is your witness, and the dark is your friend.
The Master Sculptor's Ghost. We have sifted through the layers of Hollywood fiction and the whispers of conspiracy, but as the shadows lengthened across the granite faces, we must confront the most persistent presence on the mountain, the spirit of the man who dared to reshape it. In this chapter, we explore the Master Sculptor's Ghost, the lingering legacy of Gutzon Borglum. To walk the forbidden path to the Hall of Records is to walk in the footsteps of a man whose ambition was as vast as the Black Hills themselves. Though he died before the first record was ever placed, his obsession is the very mortar that holds the mountain together. Take a slow, deep breath and visualize the man himself. Gutzon Borglum was a force of nature, volatile, brilliant, and tirelessly driven. Imagine him in his heavy wool coat, his mustache dusted with granite powder, standing on the edge of a precipice with a megaphone in one hand and a set of blueprints in the other. For 14 years, this mountain was his entire world.
He didn't just see stone, he saw a living monument that would talk to the future. Breathe in the scent of old leather, tobacco, and the sharp metallic tang of the forge. This is the atmosphere of a creator who refused to accept the word impossible. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about the architectural heart he left behind. The Hall of Records was Borglum's most personal project. While the four presidents were for the public, the hall was for the ages. It was his magnum opus, the place where he intended to be buried. Imagine the sculptor's plan to have his own bronze bust placed at the entrance, his eyes forever guarding the records. Though he is buried in Forest Lawn in California, many who work on the mountain today feel that his true essence never left the South Dakota granite. They speak of a certain energy in the tunnel, a feeling of being watched not by a ghost, but by a lingering, restless will. Breathe out and let go of your own restless will. You have spent the day building, doing, and striving. But tonight, you are not the sculptor, you are the stone. You are the mountain that receives the work. Like the old man's ghost isn't here to demand more work. He is here as a reminder that great dreams require great rest. You have done enough. Now visualize the unfinished conversation. In the months before he died, Borglum would often walk into the 70-foot tunnel alone at night. Imagine the beam of his lantern dancing across the rough walls. He would touch the granite, feeling the jagged edges where the honeycomb drills had bitten into the rock. He was talking to the mountain, promising it that it would hold the secrets of the world. There is a melancholy beauty in an unfinished masterpiece. It remains a living thing, an open sentence. The Hall of Records is Borglum's unfinished sentence, and the silence within it is the breath between the words. Think about the legacy of the hands. Borglum didn't carve the mountain alone. He directed a small army of miners and drillers, but it was his eye that guided every blast of dynamite. To this day, the National Park Service uses his original plaster models to check for erosion. Every few years, they use a pointing machine, the same tool Borglum used to measure the faces to within a fraction of an inch. His invisible ghost is still measuring the mountain. He is the invisible hand that still shapes the way we see Rushmore. Breathe in the cool, stable air of the chamber. As you visualize the tunnel, imagine the sculptor's piece. In 1998, when the Borglum family finally placed the titanium vault into the floor, it was seen as a way of finally letting Gutson rest. The promise was kept, the records were delivered. The ghost of the project was finally given a home. You can feel that same sense of closure in your own body. The loose ends of your day are being tied up. The unfinished projects are being tucked away into the dark. You are fulfilling your own promise to yourself, the promise of rest. As you drift closer to sleep, imagine the mountain at 3 in the morning. The wind whistles through the pines, and the great heads of the presidents are silent. But deep in the tunnel, 70 feet behind Lincoln, there is a sense of profound satisfaction. The master sculptor's ghost is no longer pacing the ledge. He is sitting in the dark, his back against the granite, listening to the silence he created. The work is done. The mountain is secure. The dream is sealed. Visualize yourself as the mountain now. You are vast, ancient, and composed of 1.6 billion-year-old strength. The sculptor of your ego has put down his tools. The noise of your ambitions has faded into the quiet of the night. You are not a work in progress tonight. You are a finished monument. You are a masterpiece of stillness. Breathe in the strength of the master sculptor. Breathe out the need to do more. You are safe in the vault of your own history. The mountain is holding you up, and the master's ghost is at peace.
The preservation of the self. We have journeyed through the cold physics of the granite, the heat of the porcelain kilns, and the spectral ambition of the master sculptor.
But as we reach the penultimate chapter of our story, we must look at the most profound secret of all. The Hall of Records is not just a room in a mountain, it is a mirror. In this chapter, we explore the preservation of the self, the way this hidden vault reflects the private, sacred architecture of the human soul. Every person carries an internal hall of records, a secret chamber where the essential truths of who we are kept safe from the erosion of the world. Take a slow, deep breath and turn your gaze inward. Just as the mountain has its public faces, the versions of Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln that the world sees in photographs, you also have a public face. You have the you that works, the you that speaks, and the you that navigates the expectations of others. But 70 feet behind that public image, deep in the granite of your own consciousness, there is a tunnel. This is your private sanctuary. Breathe in the cool, quiet air of this inner space. It is a place where no one else can go unless you invite them. It is the core of your being. As you drift deeper into relaxation, think about your own titanium vault. What are the values, memories, and truths that you have fired in the kiln of experience? Perhaps it is a memory of a loved one's voice, a core belief in kindness, or the quiet knowledge of your own resilience. These are your porcelain prophets. In the hall of the self, these truths do not change. They are not affected by the weather of your daily life, the storms of stress, or the heat of conflict. They sit in the dark, protected by the massive weight of your own character. Breathe out and feel the stability of these inner records. They are the black box of your identity. Now visualize the arch of resistance within your own mind. Just as the vaulted ceiling of the hall protects the records from being crushed by the mountain, your own mental structure protects your spirit from the pressures of life. You have built a geometry of peace. You have learned how to distribute the weight of the world so that it doesn't collapse your inner room. Tonight, you are leaning into that structure. You are trusting the granite of your own mind to hold the world away while you rest. You are not fragile. You are a masterpiece of internal engineering. Think about the inert argon of your sleep. In the 1998 vault, the records are preserved in a gas that does not react with anything. Imagine your sleep tonight as that noble gas. It is a state of perfect non-reactivity. The emails you didn't answer, the things you meant to say, the worries about tomorrow. In this argon state, they cannot reach you. They cannot oxidize or rust your peace. You are suspended in a bubble of eternal, unchanging stillness. You are safe because you have chosen to be unreactive to the noise of the world. Breathe in the ancient peace of the Hall of Records. Breathe out all the roles you had to play today. You are no longer the worker, the parent, the friend, or the dreamer. You are simply the vault. You are the silence. You are the rest. Sleep now as the image of the internal sanctuary and the glowing porcelain fades into the deep, unchanging dark of the granite heart. In the final part, we will explore the 10,000-year silence, the conclusion of our journey, and the ultimate peace of the mountain. But for now, there is only the quiet. There is only the dark. There is only sleep.
The 10,000-year silence. We have reached the end of the tunnel. We have climbed the phantom stairs, felt the cold titanium skin of the guardian, and decoded the porcelain messages of the future. Now we leave the world of men,
the world of tools, and even the world of history behind. In this final chapter, we enter the 10,000-year silence, the ultimate destiny of the Hall of Records and the profound, eternal peace that awaits the mountain. This is the moment where the story dissolves into the stone, and where your journey into the heart of the granite becomes a journey into a sleep without end. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the absolute stillness of the Black Hills at 3 in the morning. Imagine a time far beyond our own, not just years, but millennia. In the year 12,000 AD, the names of our cities may be forgotten. The languages we spoke may be nothing more than a whisper in the wind, but the mountain, the 6 grandfathers, will still be there. Its granite faces will have eroded by only a single inch. Behind the head of Lincoln, the Hall of Records will sit in a silence so deep it is synonymous with time itself. Breathe in that ancient air that has been trapped in the rock since the dawn of the continent. As you drift into the deepest level of relaxation, visualize the eternal stasis. Inside the vault, there is no movement, there is no light. The 16 porcelain panels are held in their titanium cradle, suspended in the noble argon gas. They are not waiting for a specific hour or a specific person. They are simply waiting. This is the 10,000-year silence. It is a silence that is not lonely, but full. It is the silence of a task completed. It is the silence of a message safely delivered. Breathe out and let your own project of being a person come to a complete and final rest. You have delivered your day. Your message is sealed. You can now join the mountain in its long, beautiful wait. Now imagine the slow breath of the earth. Geologists tell us that the mountains breathe through the expansion and contraction of the seasons. Over 10,000 years, this breath is slow and rhythmic, a heartbeat that takes a century to complete. Feel that rhythm in your own body now. Your breath is slowing, becoming as steady and deep as the mountains. You are no longer moving through time. Time is moving through you. The centuries are like falling leaves, passing by outside the granite walls, while you remain in the center of the void, untouched and secure. Think about the final unity. At the end of 10,000 years, the distinction between the man-made records and the natural mountain will have faded. The titanium will have become part of the rock's history. The porcelain will be as much a mineral of the earth as the quartz and the feldspar. Everything returns to the stone. There is a profound comfort in this return. You are returning now to your own foundation. The noise of your identity, the carvings of your personality, and the sculpting of your life are all resting. You are the granite. You are the 1.6 billion-year-old foundation. You are the mountain. Breathe in the scent of the stars and the cold, dark granite. As you fall into the final stages of sleep, visualize the entrance to the Hall of Records one last time. Imagine the mountain slowly healing itself. Over the eons, the jagged edges of the tunnel will smooth out. The dust will settle. The forbidden path will be reclaimed by the forest and the rock. The secret will be perfectly kept. You are that secret now. You are tucked away 70 feet deep in the heart of the world, in a place where no worry can find you, no light can wake you, and no sound can reach you. You are in the 10,000-year silence. It is a velvet darkness. It is a cool silver weight. It is a state of absolute, unbreakable peace. The records of your life are safe in the titanium of your soul. The mountain is your guardian. The stars are your witness. There is no more story to tell. There is no more path to walk. There is only the dark. There is only the stone.
Imagine the last light of the moon fading from the faces of the presidents. The mountain becomes a silhouette, then a shadow, then a part of the night. You are that night. You are the deep, unchanging heart of the Black Hills. Everything is exactly where it belongs. The vault is closed. The dream is secure. You are at rest. Sleep now, as the image of the granite vault, the titanium guardian, and the porcelain prophets dissolves into the eternal silence of the mountain. You are safe. You are eternal. You are asleep. The mountain is quiet. The world is far away. 10,000 years of peace. Sleep, sleep, sleep.